What's up, political peeps? I'm your host, Arif Kapoor, and today I have a very special episode for you here on the GeoPolitical. I am joined by the Connecticut State Senator from the 28th State Senate District, representing the towns of Bethel, Easton, Fairfield, and Newtown, Mr. Tony Hwang. Senator Hwang, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And boy, we were talking and all of a sudden you're on broadcast and you sound like such a young professional. So that's fantastic. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to have you here. Okay, to start. So you grew up in Taiwan, is my understanding, correct?
Yes, I was born in Taiwan. My parents escaped the communist government in China, settled in Taiwan. I was born there. And my parents immigrated to the United States when I was about 9 years old. And I'm so grateful that they did. As you know, many of first-generation immigrants come to the United States for a better future, for more of an opportunity in pursuing the American dream. But also, I think equally important is the most compelling is not only for themselves, but for their children, to give them every opportunity to succeed. Where otherwise cultural constraints and political constraints limit their ability to create a better life for themselves and for future generations. So, this country was built by immigrants, but we're unique in that immigrant class because the people who are willing to give up their comfort and the familiarity of their homeland to come to America are really, truly tremendous trailblazers. But they do it because they are committed to building a better future. And that's what America represents to me so much of, is that people come to this country to strive, to create and build an American dream for themselves and their families. So, so it's a long introduction of, indeed, I did come from Taiwan, but first and foremost, I'm tremendously grateful to have been brought up in America and to be able to pursue education. And now, fast forward, nearly almost 50 years to be a state senator, the first Asian Pacific American state senator in the history of the Connecticut General Assembly, which dates back to 1639.
That's impressive.
So that's something that I'm very, very proud of, and I hope to be a role model for many others, even young people like yourself, Asian Pacific Americans, to strive to accomplish anything that they want to.
Yes, and now when you came to the U.S. from Taiwan, and you were you and your parents both had that ultimate goal of the American dream in mind. Were there any specific factors, any education, professors, teachers, your parents that led you to want to hold elected office?
No, never thought about politics when I was 9. I was a young child who did not know the language, did not know the culture and the familiarity that I left. So I started in special education. Because I didn't have any language skills. I didn't speak English in any way. So it was very much an uphill struggle. But I had tremendous support from family at home. My parents made tremendous sacrifices. And we allowed us and motivated us to succeed academically. Academics is of the first and foremost priority. To them, and education was the greatest equalizer, the greatest democratic equalizer toward achieving the American dream, because an education will allow you to succeed and eclipse anything that you could do through just simply pure hard work and labor. Education is truly one of the most democratizing and the most important element. And I'm not talking about just education as it relates to books. We're talking about education in an area of excellence and specialty. You could be an incredible scientist, an incredible writer, but you can also be an incredible artist, an incredible carpenter. So when I talk about pursuit of education and knowledge, it's a broad spectrum, but it is a pursuit and a love of continual learning and self-improvement that I think Americans are so very, very well known for across the world.
Okay, so then through this education journey, and you said that this was like labor, just you kept studying, you kept building this educational structure. At what point in your life, how old were you when you realized elected office? You wanted to.
Never thought about elected office.
You were a realtor.
I was in the executive search business, dealing with the .com and the internet technology, and then got into real estate. But politics was not anything that even as a youngster you aspire. You always believe in your civics. You always believe in governmental engagement, giving back to the community. Public service was always built that in our success, in the benefits that we've been given by others and people who have lifted us up, that we have an important responsibility to give back. When I got really into politics was the school board of education was going to redistrict our children from their community schools. It's amazing that 20 years ago, we are experiencing now, 20 years from now ago, we had the same issue where school redistricting impact on our children's and community education continues to be such an important element. And that was how I got involved in running for the RTM, because we felt as though that our children's education was one of the biggest reasons why we love Fairfield, and our voices weren't heard.
Yes.
So it motivated my wife and I to allow me to run for politics, and being part of the process, being able to have your voice amplified, was something that I learned continuously, that this is one of the important roles to be politically involved, is that your voice becomes a bigger platform, and it's a greater responsibility that you give other people who feel as though that our government and bureaucracy does not listen to them, does not give them a voice, and that you do your best to be the representative voice. And that's what I take pride in, being a state senator. And I got to tell you, you can't make everybody happy. People in this current climate that we're in always want to assign motive. Now, that's a big word, right?
Yeah.
They want to assign motive, and look at what decisions are made and what actions based upon hearsay, based upon a misinformation. We moved away from asking the individual, just like you and I are doing right now, to be able to have that one-to-one interaction. That if there is a question or point of challenge or displeasure, that we forget to just pick up a phone.
Yeah.
Or just make the call, which you have done, young man, to say, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to sit down and meet you face to face and really have this exchange of questions. I'm so impressed by you doing so, but I think this could be a very powerful lesson for many people, many adults, to realize that if you have questions, if you have concerns, and even if you have disagreements, pick up the phone, write a note, reach out to those individuals, give them a chance to give their perspective, give them a chance for you to exchange ideas and viewpoints, and not just take somebody else's viewpoints to make decisions for you.
Yeah, I feel like it's important. Somebody who you're putting your government, your day-to-day life in the hands of, it's important to get to know them, and that's why I'm here, and to also spread that to my listeners as well.
Well, they're very lucky to have you approach it that way.
Okay, so now you mentioned you were in the RTM. During this time when you were facing these redistricting issues, RTM, and you were doing all these great things, were there any specific struggles that you can boil down to you being Asian American, like discrimination, anything particular?
No, I must say that this community has been very receptive. I have been incredibly privileged to represent in the House district of the 134th and in the Senate district of the 28th. And the 28th district has a very proud Asian American. The Asian Pacific community represents less than even 5% of the population. So I think to have the trust and the belief in the people is something that I have always valued and trusted in the people to not be caught up in the emotions of labels, but to judge an individual by what their substance and what their actions and leadership qualities are. We are now prone to labels. We are prone to believe in certain things about certain parties or individuals, race, ethnicity, religion. And I think that is an injustice to the uniqueness and the unique individuality of the people that we lose out in not getting to know better. But to me, I've always been tremendously appreciative and have been rewarded by people as a judgment that when they talk to me and meet me and interact with me, they have believed in the support and trust to have me be their representative. But look, I'm very proud to be an Asian American, but I'm even prouder to be an American.
Yes.
And I'm even prouder for the accomplishments that we've been able to succeed. I'm even prouder of the successes and the health and accomplishments of my lovely wife of 35 years. And both of us are so incredibly proud of both of our children who have grown to be wonderful, thoughtful, and caring people. Just as when I met your parents, I believe it was in ShopRite, and they were so proud of you. And they were so excited that we were going to meet. And I shared with them that I was so impressed by your diligence and thoughtfulness and persistence in wanting to get this interview. I was indeed very much looking forward to it. But you needed to know that your parents were extremely proud of you.
Yeah, they were also excited to see you as well.
Yes.
So now, that trust that you mentioned, now you went from the RTM to, you served, like you said, in the 134th district of the House of Representatives, and then now you're in the state Senate. Was that trust like a big part of you bouncing up in level, or were there any other components in you going up?
I think the experience for you at 13 years old to be doing these kind of things, and the experience from real exchanges cannot be underestimated. And so, having served on I love the library. When I served on the RTM, I understood about local government. I got a quiz for you. Do you know what the RTM means?
The representative town meeting?
You know, you would be considered probably in less than 5% of the people who would know that definition. And it goes back to a colonial time. And then the opportunity moved for me to be a state representative representing a district within Fairfield and Trumbull. And then when the opportunity arose, an opening seat, I've been privileged to represent Fairfield for all these years, but also in the past have represented Westport, Weston, Easton, Newtown, and Sandy Hook, as well as Bethel. So it is a very broad area, and it is an incredible honor and privilege that I always value. But also, we have seen public service and politics take a very, very emotional turn in the last 10 years. I've seen it all, so to speak, and experienced the whole gamut. So for me, it's really wonderful and refreshing to speak to thoughtful and industrious and engaged young people like you who want to get to this information rather than have somebody else tell them how to think.
Yeah, and in this, you're like telling these people, was that like truly your goal of taking office? Like, what is now your ultimate goal in your office, in your term, and for the state beyond your term?
It's an incredible honor and privilege to be the state senator. If I could say anything as an ultimate goal, is it goes back to what I have always envisioned public service. Public service is someone where you can meet them at the grocery store, and you can meet them at the soccer fields where they're watching games. You can meet them at the library. And that it's somebody that feels comfortable coming up to you because they know who you are. They know that you're their representative voice, and that they feel comfortable that you care about them to hear about their concerns. There's not a greater reward than to know that they care enough to want to tell you what concerns them, in the hopes that you care enough back in return to help them.
And you've, I know, clearly shown these cares. And I've told people I'm speaking to you. A lot of people have asked me, you had so many ribbon cuttings around Fairfield and the other towns that you represent in the Senate. What people have asked me to ask you, what motivates you? Like, unlike many other people who hold elected office, sometimes just sit in their office all day. We see you at every other event.
Well, I will never forget, and thank you for asking that question. It is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time away from family and makes sacrifices. But you know what, though? Just as I'm so excited to meet with you, just as your parents are so excited when I met them at the grocery store, knowing that I was going to meet with you, that when we go to those organizations, when we go to those businesses, when we go to those activities, we go there as a state senator that represents over 100,000 people, that tells you or that organization or members of that group or members of that team that you matter, and that we are there to honor you, to engage with you, and give you the sense, I know who he is. I talked to him. He was there. He was there for our, congratulations and our awards. I think that is important. We get a lot of the visibility, but what I always take, and why it's so important to do so, is we give the people that we interact with by our presence there, as the state senator, to tell them that they matter. Tell them that we care deeply about what they do. Just as I was so excited to do this with you, but I was brought to mind when I saw your parents, how excited they were for you.
Yeah.
Right? So you're right. People say, well, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. There's like 5 of them. Well, I can promise you, my wife says there's only one of me. But I think the other part is, why do I do that? Because everywhere I go, I remind them, I'm very proud to be your state senator, and I'm there to support you in the endeavor in which you are being recognized for. And I think it matters. I think it matters because in this day and age, when you don't see someone and they are just a image that you see on TV or on, on publications or on social media, it's very easy to form an image that may not be a true one. But when you meet with people, you can look them in the eye and you can shake their hands and you can see and feel the emotion and the engagement. I think there's tremendous value in that.
And you can be so much more comfortable with them.
I think you get to know them. I think they feel much more comfortable. I think even after this interview, I think you can be confident to say, boy, I spent time with him. He wouldn't stop talking.
Yeah.
He's a very different interview than I'm used to.
No, I love it.
Yeah, well, I know you. Uh, I actually had the chance and went and looked at a couple of your other interviews.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yes.
Which ones did you listen to?
I don't recollect, but I just kind of perused it, and I think sometimes I'm amazed that you are only 13.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, transitioning from this slightly, now talking about more policy in the state, is there anything what do you think the state of democracy itself in Connecticut is?
I think I think despite the media interpretation, we are by most points a collaborative, bipartisan, even-keeled policy-making state. You're going to hear divisiveness on certain issues, but when you peel back the onion and really take a look at it, instead of just the media portrayal, over 95% of our bills are bipartisanly passed. We may have disagreements on different viewpoints, but they get passed with some bipartisan basis. We work together, and it reminds me of our local dynamic in the RTM, where we work together because whether you're Democrat or Republican, in the local government, you care about education.
Yeah.
You care about people's well-being and health. You care about businesses and people's ability to afford to live in the state. I don't know why it changed when we go up to the state, or even worse, when you go to Washington, D.C., our national debate, that all of a sudden there's a variance that's so divisive that we lost sight of what is truly most important, that we are there to represent the people and finding solutions to make their lives better.
Yeah, because it's not a battle among the politicians, it's a battle for the people.
It's
ultimately.
A battle of rhetoric. And I don't think anybody who runs for office as male intent. We all believe that government has an important role to make everybody's lives better. I think when I have the experience on a local level where people see for what it is, even that on a local level, you see the national divide, the national rhetoric and divisiveness rolling into our local politics. So to answer your question, do I believe the state of our democracy is good and will continue to be safe?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I do caution that a lot of the rhetoric that you see on the divisive national level, that you see in the state level, are now slowly creeping into our local level. And the reality is, everybody has the same goals. Everybody should work together to find the solutions. The best lessons I learned about collaboration and finding solutions that everybody has a voice in, they're the best ones. But they're also ones in which someone is always going to be a little unhappy because they had to give a little bit. And some people feel as though they didn't get enough.
Yeah.
But it's a solution that incorporates all the viewpoints. So when you are actually willing to do that, instead of a majority rule, or I have the power, you take a seat and sit down, it's bad government. When people have a voice and all the shareholders who's going to be impacted by these decisions have a say and have input to creating the best policy possible, then you got something really special where we could do some good things.
Okay, so speaking of this majority and what you were just describing here, now in the Senate, the Republican Party is outnumbered to the Democrats. How do you find it is getting your voice heard, despite what you just mentioned?
When we're in the Capitol, we are outnumbered not only in the Senate as Republicans, in the Senate and in the House, We have a Democratic governor. So we are not the majority, nor are we in the power. There are colleagues that feel a sense of frustration. And perhaps in some cases, I also feel that as well. But ultimately, for me, the reinforcing, the revigorating message that I give is no matter whether I'm in the minority or the majority, whether I have power or perceive not to have power, I always have the opportunity to represent the voice of the people.
Mm-hmm.
That if a young 13-year-old wanted to meet with their state senator, that I can meet with them.
Yeah.
That if a individual that has challenges with their unemployment or with their businesses, or that a state champion of a sports team wins a great state tournament, that I can go and celebrate them and tell them that they deserve tremendous credit,
mm-hmm.
and we want to acknowledge them. I can always do that.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't a majority or a minority representation viewpoint. I'm privileged enough to be their state senator. And in their moment, they will be able to say, my state senator came and supported me. And I think that's where you put your perspective and you put your priorities and you focus in on what's most important. And I will say to you, sometimes we don't say it enough. Life happens in a flash. And 13, I envy you and the future that you will have, because you will have a great one.
Thank you.
But I think it's also important to treasure every moment.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how challenging and how difficult people may perceive in this political environment, I'm going to go home. And my wife will always be supportive most of the time. Our kids, I hope, will be happy, healthy, and successful. But that's not to say that I will not challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
I will demand that they do the best that they can. But I'm also happy to take the moment back and reflect and say, boy, I'm really lucky.
Do you think that this trust in the community, do you think that's like the biggest achievement of your
I think it's the only thing that we have. Despite all the negative and attacking news and all that, I think one of the most powerful things we have is when you have a chance to meet and be with people, and when you see in any aspects of life that they have taken the time to get to know you and they mean the best for you, then you got them. You got them as a friend. You got them as an individual who says, I know this person.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But too often nowadays, we live in the world of this.
Mm.
We have unrealistic expectations and directives to tell you how we can talk. So I think if there's anything I can say to be wary,
mm-hmm.
is demand accountability, mm-hmm. demand transparency, but demand to be engaged and not take anybody else's word for it.
Yes. And now, because of this, like, now you've built this rapport, do you think that if you were ever extend your career, becoming a U.S. Senator, going to Washington, would you do that? And do you think that if you did that, it would create less of a bond with the people, since you're serving at so much of a larger scale?
That's a very different scale when you think about that, right? I represent over 120,000 people as a state senator of the 28th Senate District in Fairfield, Easton, Newtown, Sandy Hook, Southport, and Bethel. That's a large swath of land.
Very much.
But if you ran for governor or U.S. senator, you would have to go to 169 towns.
So, like, you wouldn't be able to give that attention that you give.
And Connecticut is not a big state, but from one end of the state to the other, it's 2.5, 3 hours. And the problem is, you can't get to. I think that's a point you were going to get to, is you can't get to everyone. So you're dependent on the image, the advertising, the media, and you can't have that personal interaction. Mm-hmm. So the real challenge is for those that want to aspire for higher and upward office. You must realize that it's a different context. Mm-hmm. And if what is most important to you is to have a representative voice, then you better realize that the scaling up takes a lot more. But that's a lesson for many of the people that want to run for higher office, mm-hmm. right? You saw my track record. Yeah. Community events, RTM, state rep, mm-hmm. state senate. I have earned and learned and exchanged with so many people in our community. It's very hard to imagine that somebody who is new in our town, who's never served in any capacity of understanding the roles that you have, yeah, and represented people in the scale that you did, to be able to do the job. They may say it, yeah, but they have no experience in it. They have no proven track record of it. That's sort of like somebody who, do you like sports?
No.
It's like somebody who comes up and says, I want to do a broadcast like you do, and have not done any experience and expect to come in right away. Think of the work that you have to do. One, you have to chase down the talent to get the interview. You do that very well, right? You have to prepare and do background on the individual you're interviewing. And then you've got to engage and have the interview. But even after that, you've got a videotape that you've got to edit and that you've got to be able to upload. People think it's easy.
I know.
But it's a lot of work.
Much more than expected.
And you love doing it. And so for me, having served in public service for almost nearly 15 years, I love it. Mm-hmm. But I've learned so much. And that kind of experience, that kind of credibility cannot be understated.
Thank you so much.
Right?
And now I see here the library's closing, so I'm going to give you my last question for you. So I always like to add a little fun question at the end of all my interviews. So what's your favorite food or cuisine?
I love to eat.
I love to eat just as much as anybody else.
Pizza has to be my favorite.
What kind of pizza? New Haven or New York?
Oh, definitely New Haven. Pepe's, Modern, Sally's. And it's got to be New Haven. We got great pizza joints. I just had a slice of Naughty Dolphin pizza.
I do love Naughty Dolphin.
I love Naughty.
I love Naughty.
And they're great community advocates. But pizza. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. And there's so many local pizza restaurants.
And Colony. But you know what, though? I love pizza. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say this, and it sounds really kind of... I'm my wife's biggest fan. Mm-hmm. She's my best friend. I'll leave with this. I always love having pizza with her. Mm. When we have pizza together, it's the best ever. And she loves pizza too. Mm-hmm. So yes, I love pizza.
Okay.
So we'll close by simply saying this. I would love to extend an invitation for you to come up to Hartford.
I would love that.
During a Senate session where you could interview some of the state officials.
That would be so cool.
I know you think that would be pretty cool, wouldn't you? Right?
I
can get some of the state constitutional officers. I'll let them know how fantastic you do this. And we'd love to have you come on up to be my guest at the Hartford, up at the state capitol.
That would be so amazing. And now before we wrap up, I have a little gift for you. I have a GeoPolitical, I have merchandise, and I would love to give you one.
I love it! And the name of your show is called?
The GeoPolitical.
I love this!
Thank you so much.
This is... Wow. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. This has been one of my best interviews yet. Thank you.
There'll be many more of great interviews you'll have. You have a bright future in front of you. And let me leave again by saying, I know your parents are so incredibly proud of you.
Thank you.
Good for you.
And thank you, Senator Hwang, again. Thank you for watching Political Peeps. I hope you have a great evening. Peace out, dudes.